What's up, folks? Casual Dad here with another Warhammer Combat Cards Warlord guide. Love it when I get it right. Next up, we have the Flyrant. And if you've been following along with me, I had a couple of these done here and there, but then I decided to sit down and do the entire guide. And going through the whole list of individual warlords, I believe the Flyrant, or Flying Hive Tyrant, is actually the last of the list that I have to do in the entire thing. So I made it. We made it. We did it through this log. And if you are here with me, you did too. Congratulations. Again, I'll probably go through and redo some of the older ones, so this may not end up being the last one that I make, but it feels that way because I've just gone through the entire Warlord list in very rapid fire time. Not in a single day, but I mean over a couple weeks. So, Flying Hive Tyrant is a really interesting piece. This is Specimen LV-808-WS, Greek symbol that I don't recognize. Usually called the Flying Hive Tyrant, or affectionately referred to on the tabletop as the Flyrant. This thing is an absolute monster, but has a really weird spot. Like, it's a weird one where my understanding is that at the top tier levels of play, where this thing is max level, it has one of the highest win rates of any warlord in the game, or did. I don't know if it still does. That was a while ago. But at the same time, it can really, really struggle to get off the ground. And it comes in at 64 points, which is phenomenally high. I believe it's the third highest or very close to that, with not great hit points. At max level, it's got 315, which is good, and it's got fear, which is excellent, but it is rare, so it only has the single trait, and it does have attacks in every single type that do get to be about, so definitely leans ranged, but is no slouch in melee or psychic, which does make it a very flexible piece, and that fear does help defensively as long as you are winning, but the key thing about this one that makes it kind of good is this ability, Swooping Assault. At the end of each player's turn, so your turn, enemy turn, one random enemy card loses 15 wounds. Now, that goes through shields. It goes around all kinds of things, but it is random, so you can't really rely on it, except it does happen before deployment. So if there are enemy cards missing, you know with more clarity, maybe even know for sure if there's only one left, who is going to take that hit, which is great. It's all about pressure and attrition, so this combos really well with other effects that do just constant damage, like Poison, Barrage, and Psionic Blast, all of which are already really good abilities. This just kind of tops on top of those, and is so it makes it kind of great. Another thing I want to mention here is this is another one of those abilities where if a card is killed, it doesn't count as any specific card getting that kill. So for like Uthar the Destined's Judgment tokens, or for Gloggothrox the Foul's damage reduction, if the Flyrant's ability is what does the lethal damage, no card gets the debuff for making that kill, which is awesome. Very good. That card does still count as destroyed, though, for things like Deathblow and Endless and anything like that. But yeah, so 64 squad points, doesn't have a preference for any attack type specifically, but does definitely lean on ranged. So it would make sense to build a ranged deck around this so that it combos, so whatever wingman you have left at the end of the game have the same attack type. But because of the pressure of Psionic Blast and Poison being really powerful, and for me personally, the strongest cohesive deck I have, the most powerful, and this is actually my Swarmlord deck, but with a couple extra points to play with, the single most cohesive attack type that I have in Tyranids is Psychic. So you can see here I've got all of my key powerful Psychers, with a couple of the newer ones not in here because they're not high enough level yet. And this just leans on being very Psychic and relying on being incredibly bursty, doing a ton of damage very quickly, which is it is weird. It's a little bit antithetical. So the Flyrant's ability is very good, but it's better the more turns you have in game because it triggers more. But at the same time, you don't want to rely on that because it's not going to win the game by itself. So you want a really, really aggressive deck, and then to lean on that is just an extra bit of pressure to push the game through. So some other ways to build this around are similar to some of the other decks I've done. You can do a very aggressive melee deck, so very heavy melee with Deathblow is a option to do with this. Melee with Poison, because Tyranids have a lot of melee poison cards at this point, is also not a bad call. Cards like this one really do well, and then of course your Death Leaper is an excellent piece for just doing melee damage. And then of course you can do ranged, where you get just like Tyranids now have a huge catalog of 10 to 20 point barrage ranged cards. So you can just fill your deck with those and then have the Flyrant's damage ability to just do extra, just to like chainsaw through stuff by 1,000 cuts. Those are all different things you can do. To be totally honest, I haven't found a really successful coherent deck build with the Flyrant that makes it better than any other Warlord. I run this exact deck, like I said, with the Swarm Lord and find it better. So it's definitely kind of a wonky spot. But we'll play some games just to see how it works out. If you have a secret sauce with the Flyrant, I would love to hear it. It, again, is one that I personally struggle with. And in the pursuit of making these guides, drop a comment. If you have a Flyrant that's gotten to 4,000 trophies or something, let me know. Artemis. Yuck. Okay. So I am actively laddering Tyrant, so the cards that the decks I'm gonna run up against are probably gonna be scarier than in some of my other guides, which is both great and terrible here. It's great because you get to see this at kind of a higher level of play, but it's terrible because you may see the Flyrant at her worst. His worst. Whatever. Its worst. You may see the worst depiction of the Flyrant possible. But we'll see. We'll see if I can pull this one out. I believe, yeah, we're about on par in terms of card levels. I'm a little bit upper leveled. But we'll see how much of a difference that makes. There it is. Got the 15 on the dude over there. And this guy I've got on here mostly because I just had 7 points left to spend over and there wasn't anything better to put it in. Now that I've gotten some of the newer Tyranid cards, like that target acquired card, I may consider putting those there instead of that guy. But I'll kind of need to play with it a bit. There's also a poison ranged card, like a teeny tiny plinky poison. And you can just see how all of that, it was poison damage, psionic blast damage, and then also Flyrant damage, just a bunch of damage across the board all at once. Which is going to allow me to punch through these fear cards much more quickly. But we'll see if it matters. That's also a downside against Artemis, and then there again, because there was only one card surviving, you knew exactly who was going to get the Flyrant's 15. The 15 damage feels low, but then at the same time, as you see it triggers a lot, because even your faster games, there's still going to be several rounds, and you're going to see that come into play quite a bit. And there it was, hit him. Ooh, this is kind of a tough call. I don't really want to take the death blow anytime soon, so we'll do this. And he's going to go down soon. And we'll get that little melee buff. I'm getting outflanked all over the place, so my damage is not very impressive. And then we will have Flyrant. Execute. There it is. So you can see how it can be impactful taking down those injured cards. And it's a great ability. There's nothing wrong with the ability itself. It is very good. It's just a little bit unreliable. And for the cost you get, the Flyrant itself is a little bit hard to justify. And then we're going to get the 15 on the shielded guy. Excellent. Excellent. So max hit points is going to go over here against that dude. And then bursty damage goes over here. These two, if you get them decent level with that Inspiring Presence, and they have the Brotherhood of Psychers where they do more damage if there's more Psychers on the board. These two do insane damage. 130. I think they do the same, yeah. 129 each. It is just bonkers. And that's why this particular... Ooh, if I can take that guy out. Ah, come on. That's the thing. Whenever you want it to hit something specific, it usually doesn't. Okay, I didn't even realize that was in there. So he's also going to go Psychic. Interesting choice. I guess it works there because he's got a bunch of Psychic charge built up. But so do I. But here we are. Flyrant. Endgame. I'm up against a enemy card with... God. Big Game Hunter. Ugh. I pretty much have to go melee, which will kill this guy, which is good. So I may have this, but if so, it's going to be real close, depending on how much psychic damage this guy does. So I think I've got this. Okay. But every game you play with this thing is close. And picture this exact same game where instead of the Flyrant, I have the Swarm Lord, and suddenly it gets infinitely easier where I don't even care about this. And the Swarm Lord just one-handed just smacks Artemis straight down. Because he would have been losing his attack bonuses all game. I would have been hitting incredibly hard in that end game. Now, I did gain a bunch of damage from the Flyrant's abilities, so it's kind of hard to say, but yeah, it's hard to rate, just because throughout the game it just feels so different. So I'll play one more just to kind of show it. It is powerful. Clearly it's powerful, but the Flyrant itself does feel a little bit weak compared to some of the other warlords in the same range, and especially some of the other Tyranid warlords, because there's nothing in the world preventing me from running this exact deck build in another warlord with more cards. Including, I think, at least one additional Psyker that I could squeeze in there if I had a cheaper warlord. I wouldn't be using that Warlord's ability very much, but it's there. Now, this is going to be an interesting match, because I'm up against another Psychic Warlord who hits harder than I do. Oh, yuck. Okay. God, I don't want to do that. We'll do it. Okay. Now here, you may see the Flyrant's ability actually come in clutch. So I'm up against a very high-level Eldred deck. This guy's level 9, that's why I say that. I fully expect to lose this. They're both level 9. But this is one where I'm going to lean on my secondary attack types. And instead of being all... What do we got? Ooh. Well, that's unfortunate. Who hits harder? 93, 175. My God, man. Okay. We are going to do this, which probably is going to cost me my taunt card, which is kind of what I want because I want to shift all of this stuff over to the left. Perfect. Okay. So that I've done the damage. Oh, nice. Done the damage on Trileorn, but that he is not pointed at one of my scarier cards. Now, I'm still probably going to lose at least 2 of these, if not all 3 of them. Just because that's a lot of damage. Okay, 2 of them. Whew. That said, and then even if I do take this down, which I'm probably not going to. Ooh, brutal matchup. That is a, yeah. So, I mean, I really love this Psychic build. It's very unusual to run up against a fully Psychic opponent deck. But if you do, the worst one you could possibly run into is an Eldred deck, because this guy, Eldred himself, is not going to one-shot me. Okay. We'll see if that fear matters. Because if he doesn't one-shot me, then my return back may actually be enough with this guy killing this. Ooh. Okay, alright. May have actually gotten that. That really helps. Okay, so there we see the Flyrant's ability actually coming in clutch in this match, and this may have been a loss for any other Warlord, and it may be the Flyrant's ability that actually won that. So I'm reconsidering this, but that was an extremely unusual matchup, and in most matchups, you would get more benefit out of a different Warlord. But I will say that felt pretty good, and what a game. God, ooh, okay. Ooh, got lucky there. Got lucky, also made the right positioning choices, which is still getting lucky because I didn't know what was coming in the deck, so yeah, very good. But yeah, that's it. That is the Flying Hive Tyrant. Really interesting Warlord. Would love to hear your thoughts. All right, thanks. Bye.